Hello, Steve here from Advanced Global MSP Coaching. And I wanted to take a few minutes today just to talk about the elephant in the room. You know, the big question, why doesn't Autotask provide MSPs with how to configure the PSA automation software? We already know it comes as an empty box and it's not ready for use. Why don't they build it out a little bit? Why don't they give us a little bit of help? We all know it's a very robust PSA automation software. We all know it can do absolutely amazing things. Everybody tells us that. But when I look at it, all I see is noise and confusion. And where's the help? I reach out to Autotask and they give me a little bit of low level navigation answer like, well, you go here to configure that. Great. Now that I'm here, what do I do? Well, is the answer. So let's talk about this a little bit. There are 5 whys Autotask does not provide MSPs with how to configure their PSA automation software. The number one reason in my mind, and it's my video, so we're going with my opinion for the moment. Feel free to email me with yours. But the number one reason is that Autotask is a software company. It's not a managed service provider. And you can see this in various things throughout the PS automation software. For instance, why do departments only infect the project module? Why isn't departments kind of like our organizational structure? I don't know. From a software point of view, it probably makes total sense. From an MSP point of view, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And there's so many other areas when we look at the software, it's clearly written as from a software developer's point of view, not a managed service provider. And I know they have hired a few managed service providers over the years. And I know Bob, who originally contracted with Michael to write the original software back in 2004, he was an MSP. He had experience, but he was still more developer than he was MSP. Austin was great. When he started Datto, he came from MSP roots. He understood MSPs. If there's anybody in the industry at that executive level that really got us, it was Austin. Neither Bob nor Austin are here anymore. And the people that are here, even though a few of them have worked for a managed service provider, and even though and even less of them may have owned a managed service provider, they don't think like a managed service provider. They don't have a managed service provider's voice. Kaseya, Datto, and Autotask are software development companies. The second thing is the complexity of the PS automation software. Again, they're great software developers almost to a fault. They have taken a SQL database and squeezed as much out of it, and in some areas, too much out of it. They've given us more options and more configurations than we need. We could get by on a simpler set of options. For example, in the streamlining your invoice, you have so many places to determine, is this billable or not billable? And we're still not talking about, is this covered by a managed service agreement or not covered by a managed service agreement? Information that for the most part, the techs really don't know. The techs really don't know what is inside the signed MSA agreement. So when they look at a time entry, is this billable or not? I don't know. Should it be complemented to the client or not? Should it show up on the invoice or not? Not really decisions that I want my techs worried about, but we have the option if that's what we need to go. So again, complexity of the PS automation software is clearly because they're software developers and not a managed service provider. And I want you to know the third biggest reason why Autotask doesn't tell you how to configure the Autotask software is because they keep changing it. Yes, they are doing about trying to get to 4 or 5 major releases per year, as well as a lot of maintenance releases. Again, they are moving closer to being a software development company where we get a maintenance release every Tuesday evening and less of like how an MSP works. Rapid release cycles, fragmented communication across teams. And as Kaseya gets bigger and bigger, there are more and more teams. And as they keep their training and their information in sync, it has to stay in sync with all their products. They're resource constrained. It is very, very hard to find somebody that really knows how the Autotask software works. There's a few developers left, there's a few support people left, and there's a few professional service people that have been around since, I would say, 2010, 2014. It takes that knowledge for you to really understand Autotask because everything that's happened since then has been nothing but marketing hype. They lack centralized ownership. Who really owns the Autotask training program? It's up in Kaseya, and it's part. They have taken everything out of Autotask, shipped it to Miami, and now it's part of the Kaseya platform. Once again, diluting the real true knowledge of how an MSP uses the Autotask software, not to mention the complexity of the product. Not Autotask, the contract module hasn't been refreshed since 2014, even though they've been threatening it since Datto 2023. And I hear in this release notes, we are going to have a tip of the iceberg, but it's still not a total contract module rebuild, which is badly needed. But then it's also the complexity of how does it work with all the other products. And now, according to the recent announcement for Kaseya, they're focused on AI. Hey, I hate to tell you this, but there's no AI in Autotask except for what Kaseya has developed over the last few years. That means all the antiquated part of the product isn't going to get touched. But I'll tell you, Autotask being a software company, not a managed service provider, is the number one reason why they can't tell you how to configure Autotask. But there is really an even bigger reason, and that's the attorneys. What am I talking about? The liability. If any Kaseya employee tells you how to configure Autotask, they run at risk of getting sued. Because if it isn't the best in class, like they promoted, or if for some reason you get upset over this configuration not working as good as the non configuration, which trust me, can happen if you don't really know what you're doing. If they give you any advice at all, they're responsible that that device is not going to put you out of business. And their lawyers are screaming at them all the time. You can't tell them something. You can tell them how the software was developed. You can tell them how to navigate in the software, but you cannot give them any information that they need to run their business. It just puts Kaseya, Datto, Autotask at a liability risk that they don't want to take on. How do they train their employees? Where is their black line? I'm not really sure. And how do I even know this? Because I don't work for Autotask or Kaseya. No one from Autotask or Kaseya says, Steve, we can't tell you that's a liability risk that our attorneys won't allow us to have. But you see it in their actions. We talk with about 6 to 12 MSPs every year that are new to Autotask, and they've just gone through the Autotask professional services onboarding training. And they go, Steve, we kept asking questions like, how do you configure this? And they will say, well, you go here, here, and here. And we go, great. Now that we're here, what do we do? Mum's the word. They won't tell you. And you go, okay, that's fine. I get it. No problem. What do other MSPs do? Give me some examples. Give me some options here. Mum's the word. And then the real big one is, what is a standard build? But what is something that just kind of a base level standard build? How do I configure the SLAs? Or how do I configure a contract? Or how do I do even the simplest things in Autotask? And mum's the word. So that's why, because there's so much mum's the word on how the best way to configure the Autotask PSA automation, I'm absolutely sure the attorneys have put a gag order on them. And then that leaves you only one why. Because Autotask relies on external expertise, which is required in order for you to onboard and fully leverage the Autotask software. So in 2014, Autotask had certified 18 what they called certified consultant partners, CCPs. I know where about five of them are today. Some of them are still providing coaching services, like Rianne from ABC Solutions out of Florida, Michelle from VPA out of Louisiana. Him used to work for Datto. I don't think he's a CCP because he was a Datto employee who worked on the Autotask side. I don't know too much more about Chris's background, but those are your power players in the area. Carl's been around a long time, predates me. He knows MSPs better than I do. He knows the platforms across the board. I'm not sure he knows Autotask the best. And then when it comes to advanced live reports, nobody wants to take the time to learn how to write live reports. Emma Barker, who is a Datto employee out of the UK, is by far the best live report writer in the world. But you have to pay professional services time to have her write the live report for you. She's not writing them in anticipation of your need. Rayanne is a good live report writer, but she doesn't do it very often. I see some of her reports, but not a lot. Michelle has by far the best profitability live report. As a matter of fact, we tried to write one that is better for the service delivery side, and we've had to pull back. It's very hard to write profitability reports. We still have a profitability report, and I believe Michelle Bernstein has a better profitability report. So there you go. Autotask relies on us. And guess what? We've all been around since 2010, 2014. We've known the tool. We know the old tool. We know how the tool was built underneath. And Autotask is relying on us to answer your questions. So there you go. The 5 Whys Autotask doesn't provide you with the configurations that you need to fully leverage the PSA automation. Number one, Autotask is a software company, not a managed service provider. Number two is just the complexity of the PSA software as it's written. Number three is Kaseya is pushing for 4 to 5 major releases per year. Nobody can keep up with knowing what's going on. Number four is the attorneys and their gag order and the liability risk if they do answer your questions. And number five is because Kaseya, Datto, and Autotask, whether they admit it or not, they rely on external expertise, which is required for you to fully leverage your Autotask software. So there you go. Those are the 5 Whys. If you want to discuss more, just schedule a call with me. Shoot me an email at info@advancedglobalmsp.coaching or info@mspcoaching.com, and we'll respond with my availability and we'll schedule some time. And especially if you disagree with me, please, I would love to hear your input on this very important topic. And that topic is, why doesn't Autotask provide MSPs on how to configure their PSA software? Other than that, have an awesome day.